In chaotic times, when headlines bring more fear than hope and circumstances seem out of control, many people search for protection outside of themselves, in systems, people, and external structures. But there is a source of protection that doesn't rely on the external world, and it's clearly revealed in one of the most powerful texts in the Bible, Psalm 91. This psalm is not just a poetic prayer or a beautiful promise. It is in fact a manual for inner resilience, a spiritual, emotional, and mental shield designed for those who choose to live by faith, even in the midst of life's darkest storms. The very first sentence sets the tone with authority. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This is not about visiting faith occasionally. It's about dwelling, making the divine presence your permanent address. In times of crisis, this is crucial. You can't survive spiritually by occasionally thinking positive thoughts. You must remain, dwell, and consciously position yourself in that higher vibration of trust. Because only from there can you resist collective fear, paralyzing anxiety, and overwhelming pressure. When the world is falling apart, Psalm 91 reminds you, "I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust." This is not vague spirituality. This is a bold, intentional decision to trust. And that trust doesn't come from having no problems. It comes from a deep knowing that there is a higher power above every crisis. In this context, faith is not passive. It's not denial. It is a posture of inner resistance, a way of standing strong in the middle of the storm. Each verse in this psalm is a spiritual survival tool, a clear response for those moments when your heart trembles, your body is tired, and your mind is overwhelmed. Take verse 3, for example. "Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence." What does this mean today? That when chaos tries to trap you with despair, destructive thoughts, and toxic information, there is a divine promise of escape. But that escape is not physical. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's choosing faith over fear. It's returning to the Most High as your real refuge. We live in a time where fear has become an industry. The media spread it, social platforms amplify it, people carry it unknowingly, and fear has real consequences. It creates illness, clouds decision-making, and fuels unnecessary conflict. That's why Psalm 91 isn't a spiritual decoration, it's a practical response. When it says, "He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler," it's teaching that there is a truth stronger than facts, a spiritual reality that is more solid than statistics, and that truth becomes your shield when you internalize it. This is not about mindless repetition. This is about activation. Every word of Psalm 91 is like a spiritual code that aligns you with the frequency of faith. But for it to work, it must be spoken with intention. It must be lived. So when verse 5 declares, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day," it's not denying that threats exist. It's affirming that your soul can remain in peace even while danger lurks around you. That is true resilience, inner peace in the middle of external war. In crisis, many people lose direction because they feed their minds with the wrong content. Tragic news, fear-driven conversations, repetitive thoughts of scarcity. Psalm 91 is the antidote. Each verse is a dose of clarity, strength, and spiritual direction. So when it says, "1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you," it's not promoting arrogance, it's revealing a divine protection that is activated through total trust, through connection with the Most High, through a mindset that refuses to surrender to despair. The key is how you respond. Crisis always gives you a choice, fold or rise, collapse or grow stronger, and that choice begins in your thoughts. That's why this psalm is so powerful. It offers a mental and spiritual roadmap to stay grounded, even when everything around you shakes. It's a manual of spiritual resistance that can and should be applied daily, especially when your outer world feels out of control. If right now you're facing difficulty, if your environment has stolen your peace, If your mind is heavy with doubt, pause for a moment and say with conviction, "My refuge is in the Most High. Nothing external will rule over me." This is not just a positive affirmation. It's an act of resistance. It's your soul reminding your mind who is truly in control. And that controller is not fear. It's not crisis. It's not pressure. It is faith. It is the unshakable confidence that there are wings covering you, a shelter protecting you, and a promise that will not fail. Resilience is not just enduring. It's advancing with purpose, even when the road is full of obstacles. And Psalm 91 doesn't promote passive waiting. It reveals active, courageous, and intentional resistance. Each verse teaches you to stand firm, not through physical strength, but through deep conviction. God is with me, and that's enough. This is the foundation of true spiritual resilience. When verse 7 says, "1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you," it's declaring a principle that goes beyond logic. How can you remain untouched when everything around you is collapsing? The answer isn't found in external control. It's rooted in your inner state. Those who dwell in the secret place of the Most High are not shaken by chaos because their minds do not vibrate in the frequency of fear. They live on a higher level, a different emotional dimension. They are shielded from the inside out, and this inner strength is not automatic. It's built. It's cultivated. Faith is not a switch you flip. It's a flame you feed. Napoleon Hill once said that faith is not a blind belief, but a strong, positive emotion developed through conscious repetition of elevated thoughts. And that's exactly what Psalm 91 offers. It trains you to think with power, to speak with conviction, and to walk with spiritual authority. This is why it's not just a prayer. It's a spiritual manual. Verse 10 continues this revelation. "No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling." This may sound unrealistic in a world where bad things happen every day. But this verse is not promising a trouble-free life. It's declaring that you have the ability to create an inner and spiritual environment that is untouchable by fear, chaos, and negativity. It doesn't mean you'll never face trials. It means those trials won't destroy you. They won't steal your peace. They won't dominate your mind. This is where the concept of emotional immunity comes in. Just as the body can develop resistance to physical illness, the mind can also build spiritual and emotional defenses. How? By meditating on truth, by speaking faith, by affirming divine promises over yourself. Psalm 91 is not wishful thinking. It's a spiritual prescription for daily mental renewal. When it says, "For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways," it's not poetic exaggeration. It's a spiritual law that activates in those who dare to trust. But here's the key. That kind of protection doesn't operate in a mind filled with fear, despair, and panic. It flows through a mind that has trained itself to believe even when it doesn't see, through a heart that chooses to stay calm even when it doesn't understand, through a soul that whispers, "God is with me," even while walking through fire. This is where many lose their footing. They think faith means never feeling fear. But real faith is feeling the fear and still moving forward. It's crying and still choosing to pray. It's doubting and still declaring the truth. It's facing pressure and still affirming, "The Lord is my strength." This is the kind of soul strength that doesn't break in the fire. It's refined in it. It becomes purer, deeper, and more unshakable. So if you're going through a personal crisis, financial, emotional, relational, or spiritual, Psalm 91 is not a passive comfort. It is a spiritual weapon. Each verse is a sword, each promise a shield, each declaration a command to your mind and spirit. And the more you repeat it, the more real it becomes. Because this isn't magic, it's training. And training creates transformation. The world will always give you reasons to fear. But the Word of God offers you reasons to trust. And when you choose where to place your focus, you are also choosing the frequency you live in. Psalm 91 invites you to live in a dimension where protection isn't just a hope, it's a certainty. Where peace doesn't come from outside, it flows from your divine connection. And when that connection is nurtured with intention, you become unbreakable. Let's be clear, Resilience is not rigidity. It's not pretending things don't hurt or suppressing emotions. True spiritual resilience is the opposite. It's feeling everything but choosing wisely. It's acknowledging the pain but refusing to be ruled by it. It's crying but not forgetting who you are or where your strength comes from. Psalm 91 builds in you a sacred identity, one that doesn't collapse in the storm, because it's anchored in something eternal. Right now, take a moment to declare, I am stronger than this crisis because I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Don't just say it. Feel it. Own it. Let it be a decree over your life. Every time you write, say, or meditate on that truth, you are reprogramming your inner world for victory. You are training your subconscious to reject fear and align with power. And that right there is spiritual resilience in its purest form. One of the greatest spiritual truths revealed in Psalm 91 is this: protection is not passive. It is not something that simply falls from the sky without participation. It is activated through an internal decision, the decision to trust, to remain, to dwell under the shadow of the Almighty. And that decision isn't taken once and forgotten. It is renewed daily, sometimes in silence, sometimes through tears, but always with power. Verse 14 brings this truth to light. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. This isn't just a poetic statement. It's a spiritual law of alignment. God never promised a life without difficulty, but he did promise to be present in the midst of it. Even more, he promises to lift, protect, and honor those who choose to love him, trust him, and truly know who he is. To know his name isn't just about what we call God. It's about knowing his nature, his character, his faithfulness. It's walking through fire with the unshakable conviction that no matter how hard the winds blow or how high the waves rise, there is a rock that cannot be moved. That's the kind of resilience that changes lives. The kind that transforms victims into victors. That makes someone naturally fragile into someone spiritually indestructible. Napoleon Hill taught that a mind dominated by fear cannot create anything great, and he was right. Fear blocks creativity, intuition, and discernment. But when the mind chooses faith instead, it releases a power that surpasses logic. This is exactly what Psalm 91 invites us into, a complete system of spiritual and mental training to live above the circumstances. Verse 15 deepens this idea. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. Notice that it doesn't say, I will keep him from all trouble. It says, I will be with him. That changes everything. This is not a spirituality that denies pain. It's a faith that walks through pain with direction, strength, and divine presence. Real resilience doesn't seek an easy path. It seeks the true one. And the truest path is the one where you are never alone. In seasons of crisis, the enemy's number one strategy is isolation, to make you believe that your faith is weak, that you're alone, that no one understands what you're facing. But Scripture reminds you, I will be with him in trouble. That one sentence can rebuild a broken heart. It can restore a weary soul, because it means the Creator of the universe doesn't abandon you in your darkest hour. He enters it with you and leads you out of it. That's the essence of spiritual resilience. It's not escaping the valley of the shadow. It's walking through it with light. It's not avoiding the fire. It's learning to walk in it without being burned. That's the promise of Psalm 91. And that's also what Napoleon Hill taught in different terms. The goal is not to deny reality, but to transform how your mind responds to it. Many people want instant miracles, quick exits, fast fixes. But what this psalm offers is even more powerful, a process of building inner strength that won't break when life gets hard. And that process is developed through habits, through repetition, through words, through intention. Hill said, repetition of affirmations leads the subconscious mind to accept them as truth. That's not just motivation, it's spiritual programming. And Psalm 91 is the perfect tool for it. When you repeat, 1,000 may fall at my side, and 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. You're telling your subconscious, I'm not a victim of the system, of the economy, of the diagnosis. You're reminding yourself that you dwell in a higher place, a stronger, safer, more secure realm. You are creating an atmosphere of faith that repels despair. You are feeding your soul with practical hope. And hope isn't wishful thinking. It's a force that gives direction to your thoughts, your choices, and your expectations. And yes, it all starts with one simple decision: what you choose to believe. If you believe defeat is your destiny, you will live in survival mode. But if you choose to believe that there's purpose even in the crisis, you become resilient. You become grounded. You become guided. Because when your faith is stronger than your fear, nothing can stop you. That's the kind of resistance Psalm 91 wants to shape in you. So right now, repeat this or write it down. God is with me in trouble, and He will lift me up. This isn't just comforting language. It's eternal truth. Every time you declare it, you're telling your mind. Anxiety doesn't rule here. You're telling your soul, we're not giving up. You're telling your fear, there's no room for you. That's not denial. That's spiritual strength. Psalm 91 doesn't promise a life without storms. It promises that you will not be destroyed by them. And this is not just about surviving. It's about emerging stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the purpose God has for your life. When verse 16 says, "With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation," it is declaring more than endurance. It is promising abundance, fullness, and destiny fulfilled. Napoleon Hill taught that wealth begins in the mind, and he wasn't just referring to money. He spoke of a wealth of clarity, purpose, and spiritual alignment. A mind filled with fear and scarcity cannot recognize opportunity even when it's right in front of it. That's why Psalm 91 is also a roadmap to inner abundance. Because when you dwell in the presence of the Most High, you dwell in clarity, and clarity is the first step to a prosperous life, even in the darkest of seasons. One of the most practical ways to apply this psalm as a tool of resilience is to make it a daily habit. Not as a superstition, but as a conscious spiritual discipline. Each morning, as you speak these verses with intention, you're training your mind not to surrender to the fear of the day. You're affirming that the chaos outside has no power over you. You're declaring that your protection comes not from the world but from heaven, and this practice transforms your energy. It reshapes how you respond to news, to conflict, to uncertainty. Because when a person is protected on the inside, nothing on the outside can shake them easily. Hill said, "A well-trained mind becomes a fortress, and you can build that fortress." It's not a gift for the chosen few. It's a result of consistent practice. Many people say, "I trust in God," but still live paralyzed by anxiety. Why? Because their faith is in their mind, not in their heart. It's in their words, but not in their daily discipline. Psalm 91 was never meant to be a decoration on a wall. It is meant to be a spiritual workout. Every verse is a tool, and every time you speak it with presence, you are adding bricks to the walls of your inner fortress. For example, when you say, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day," you are telling your subconscious, "I do not participate in collective fear." You're drawing a spiritual boundary between yourself and the chaos around you. You're not physically isolating, but you are creating a sacred mental space where panic cannot enter, where pressure cannot dominate, and where peace still breathes. And here's where many people go wrong. They try to change their circumstances without changing their frequency. They seek peace outside without cultivating it inside. But it doesn't work like that. Your external world will always reflect your internal world. That's why when you train your mind with the words of Psalm 91, you are planting seeds of peace, strength, and direction. And what you plant, you eventually harvest. The most dangerous spiritual enemy in a crisis is not the crisis itself, it's discouragement. That inner voice that whispers, "You're not going to make it. This will never get better. You've already lost." That voice is not from God. It is a mental shadow that can only be defeated by spiritual light. And Psalm 91 is light. It is fire, it is sword, it is shield. When you speak it with conviction, you activate real protection. And more than that, you're training your subconscious to resist pressure and advance with peace. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is commit to a Psalm 91 practice. Not as a magic formula, but as an act of spiritual maturity. You can commit to reciting it for 21 days, enough time to form a new internal rhythm. Or you can add it to your morning routine alongside affirmations, prayer, and meditation. Hill taught that the mind needs to be fed with direction every day. And you have the food. You have the code. All that's needed is discipline. Imagine what would happen if thousands of people across the world began meditating on this psalm daily with intention, faith, and understanding. We would become a generation that is harder to manipulate, quicker to forgive, slower to panic, and more connected to the divine. Individual resilience would become collective protection, and you can be part of that. You can start that spiritual movement right where you are. Because when you change your frequency, you change your atmosphere. So right now, I invite you to write in the comments, "My mind is a fortress, and Psalm 91 is my shield." Not as a trend, not out of emotion, but as a declaration. Because every word you choose to write, say, or think is being absorbed by your subconscious, and your subconscious shapes 95% of your decisions, reactions, and beliefs. If you feed it truth, your life will begin to reflect that truth. A strong mind is powerful. But when multiple minds are aligned in the same spiritual frequency of faith, that power multiplies. Psalm 91 is not only about individual protection, it also speaks to the potential of collective resilience. In times of crisis, this becomes one of our greatest spiritual weapons, unity in truth and trust. Napoleon Hill taught that when people come together with a higher purpose, they form what he called a mastermind, a shared consciousness where strength, wisdom, and direction expand. While Hill approached this from a personal development perspective, the concept is deeply spiritual. The Bible had already revealed this principle. One can chase 1,000, but two can put 10,000 to flight. There is supernatural power when people unite to declare, believe, and resist together. Psalm 91 can be our point of unity, a spiritual code that gathers those who choose peace in the midst of panic. Every time you repeat this psalm, you're not just protecting your own mind, you're elevating the atmosphere around you. And when you share it with others, you're planting light in places that may have been overrun by fear, anxiety, and despair. That's how change begins, not just individually but collectively. The enemy will always try to isolate you, to make you believe your faith is too small, that you're alone, that no one really understands what you're going through. But when you see thousands of others declaring the same words, praying the same promises, trusting the same God, something shifts. Faith awakens. Hope multiplies. And a spiritual resistance is formed that no crisis can shake. Remember, Psalm 91 never says the storm won't come. It says it won't destroy you. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him. I will honor him. That's not just a comfort, it's a strategy. When you live from that truth, your life becomes a testimony. Your peace becomes a message. Your calm presence becomes a light in dark places. And others will begin to ask, how are you so strong in this storm? That's when you can answer with confidence. Because I dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Now is the perfect time to share this word. Not just in faith, but in spiritual responsibility. If you found strength through this message, pass it on. Send it to someone battling anxiety, walking through loss, facing discouragement. Someone who needs to know that there is a refuge, that there is a way to stand firm, that there is a living promise available to those who choose to believe. And don't underestimate the power of your testimony. You don't need a platform to preach. Your words, your posture, your peace, they all preach louder than sermons. In a world drowning in fear, a peaceful spirit is a rare and radiant thing. Psalm 91 is not just your shield, it's a torch you can carry to guide others out of the darkness. If you want to take this resilience even deeper, commit to living this psalm. Not just reading it. Make it part of your mornings, your thoughts, your language. Post it, write it, memorize it, declare it. Hill said, "The mind becomes what it listens to most often. And if your mind listens to the promises of Psalm 91 every day, it will inevitably become a fortified, faith-driven mind. And that kind of mind changes households. It changes businesses. It changes communities. Because a person led by the Spirit, grounded in truth, and filled with higher thoughts, is not just resilient, they influence, inspire, and lead. That's the kind of spiritual resistance the world is waiting for. People who don't give up. People who don't harden. People who feel deeply but don't collapse. People who walk with Psalm 91 carved into their soul. So as we close, declare this out loud or write it down. My home is covered. My mind is at peace. My spirit is lifted. I dwell under the shadow of the Almighty. This is not just a phrase, it is a life posture, a way of thinking, living, and responding to whatever comes. And when you make this your habit, you'll start to see how the world around you begins to reflect your new inner strength. Don't stop here. Keep feeding your spirit. Keep surrounding yourself with messages that lift you higher. Every video you watch with intention, every verse you repeat in faith, every declaration you speak out loud, all of it is strengthening your invisible fortress. And that fortress is not for sale. It's built brick by brick through practice, conviction, and connection. And if this message has spoken to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, comment with your intention, and share it. Because perhaps without knowing it, we are becoming part of a spiritual movement that is raising up a generation of unshakable people. People who don't run from the storm, but walk through it in faith. And when the storm passes, they will still be standing. Not because they're perfect, but because they chose to dwell in the secret place of the Most High.